I'm just going to read you one quote from Srila Prabhupada about reading his books.
Okay.
Even though I read 2 already. So you European American students, you take full advantage of this Vedic culture. I am therefore so much laboring hard that before leaving my body, this body, I may give you some books you can enjoy after my death. So utilize it, utilize it. Read every shloka nicely. Try to understand the meaning. Discuss amongst yourselves. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Now I'm getting an echo, but I'm just going to. Are you getting an echo, Balakrishna?
We can hear you
No?
now, Vishwati.
Okay. Okay, that's fine, no problem. So, to talk about,
Bala, make sure you turn off your mic because I think we might be hearing the echo of Vishwadika.
make sure I talk into the mic. Can you hear me now? This is good?
No, it's working. Sorry, Vishwadika. I was just saying if everyone makes sure their mic is off, that way we don't get any echoes.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes.
I think Devata
Okay.
Prabhu is around you, Mataji, and that is why you're getting echo. Like Devata Prabhu's mic is not off.
Yes.
He has to mute his mic, then you won't get echo. Yeah.
Okay. Now we won't get the echo. It's good now. Thank you for the good suggestion. Okay, so these are our 3 discussion points this week. The jiva is subordinate to Krishna's control. Our constitutional position, Sanatana Dharma, and out of millions of jivas, one will try for perfection. So the first topic is the jiva is subordinate to Krishna's control. To talk about this quality of the jiva, I'm using mostly Bhagavad-Gita 7.5, which is actually on your reading list. And very conveniently, Srila Prabhupada gives a summary of our last class at the beginning of the purport. Very interesting. So here we go. We're going to do a little summary of that last class. The living entity, the jiva, is superior energy. And he shares, he has the same, the word is not share because that means that Krishna is inferior to us. We share Krishna's superior energy. We are part of that energy. The inferior energy, the material nature, is actually manifested in 2 forms. There's the gross material energy, earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then there's the subtle material energy, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Very interesting to note here that the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego are considered material energy. They're material energy. You know, so many people are so proud of their intelligence, but actually that intelligence is material energy. The mind is material energy, our false ego. So the living entities are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes. But the living entities who are doing this exploiting are actually part of the superior energy. And it is actually due to this superior energy that the entire material world functions. In fact, the cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy, the living entity. However, we don't want to get puffed up about that. The living entity who is superior energy is controlled by the energetic, which is Krishna. That's the difference. We share in Krishna's superior energy, but we are the energy and Krishna is the energetic. Without Krishna, there is no superior energy. So that the living entity is actually subordinate to Krishna's control is very important for us to realize. Not understand it intellectually, realize it. Why? Well, because it's essentially what keeps us in material consciousness. Not that being subordinate to Krishna is keeping us here, but not fully understanding that. And one may say, oh, I understand this. Clearly, I'm infinitesimal and God is great, but do we realize it? To some extent, all of us do here tonight. Otherwise, we wouldn't be coming together to study Bhagavad-Gita. Still, there are degrees of this realization. Last week, we talked about the jiva's position being that of being sustained. Bhakta also means devoted. Bhakta means one who is sustained, and it means one who is devoted to Krishna. So the true Bhakta is the person who fully realizes his eternal position as the one who is sustained. And so he reciprocates with love. Most of the time, the jiva is trying to be the bhukta, the maintainer, or the bhokta, the enjoyer. But as devotees, we understand that we are the ones who are sustained. And our position is to be devoted to Krishna. Because the devotee is fully immersed in this consciousness lovingly, Krishna is immediately attracted to that person. We can use the example of a radar, which is programmed to pick up certain kinds of objects on its screen, like a plane, or even they have these terrible bombs that they have these days, which can zero in on a target, even if the bomb has not been directed exactly to the right target. The radar in the bomb will direct the bomb to the target. So the love for the bhakta is so attractive to Krishna that Krishna's radar never loses sight of that devotee. There may be millions of jivas, but Krishna is focused on that one illuminated jiva, that pure devotee. In that way, the bhakta, the sustained one, realizes and lives fully in his constitutional position. Krishna fully sustains his pure bhakta in all circumstances of life. Sometimes devotees would wonder, how come Srila Prabhupada knows that? Srila Prabhupada would say things that it was really quite amazing. How Prabhupada knew, like a devotee would go in the room with a certain problem, and before the devotee even would speak, Srila Prabhupada would begin to speak exactly what the problem was and what that devotee needed to hear. So what is this amazing connection? Well, it doesn't come from the bhakta, from the pure devotee. It comes because Krishna's radar is always on the pure devotee. Just like if we really love somebody, they may be in a huge crowd, but we're going to follow that loved one everywhere they go. They're not just going to be, lost in the crowd. So because Krishna is always directly focusing on his pure devotee, whenever the pure devotee needs to know something, Krishna reveals it from within the heart. It's not coming from the devotee, it's coming from Krishna. And there are so many examples of this in our scriptures. There's the story of Maharaj Parikshit, who was in the womb of his mother Uttara. And there was a Brahmastra, a terrible weapon, coming to destroy him within the womb of his mother. And Krishna appeared just at the right moment within the womb of his mother and annihilated that Brahmastra and protected his devotee. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna was in trouble. Krishna protected his devotee. He even broke his vow that he would not fight during the battle to protect his devotee. When Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladut on the way to America, he had several heart attacks, and he was thinking, I'm not going to make it. And he was praying to Krishna, please help me, because he was feeling that if he has one more heart attack, it's going to be the end. And that night, Krishna appeared to him in his dream and told him, don't worry, just keep going. I'm protecting you. And actually, the captain of the Jaladut said that this was the most peaceful crossing that he's ever done in his whole career, across the ocean that time. So Krishna has his radar on the pure devotee. So we're not fully realizing now our relationship with Krishna. We are the sustained. We're in training to realize that. So it's actually good. We're learning. So it's good to be aware of scenarios which will bring forth the reality of the illusion that we are the controller. So let us begin by looking at Murphy's Law. I don't know if any of you have heard about Murphy's Law, but it's something that many people will quote when things are going wrong. Murphy's Law is, nothing is as easy as it looks. Everything takes longer than you expect. If anything can go wrong, it will go wrong at the worst possible moment. So basically, everyone laughs when they hear this, or at least smiles, unless one is in the middle of one of these crises when Murphy's Law is being applied to us. This may seem mundane, and within the context of material life, it is. It is a reality that actually everyone confronts. We are not the controllers. We're not. We think we are in so many situations, but we're not. And because we think we are, calling it Murphy's Law lightens the mood a little bit and makes everything seem not so bad. But actually, Murphy's Law is not really Murphy's Law. It's Krishna's law. It's not Murphy's. There's actually a guy, when I was looking for this online, there's actually a person who actually wrote this. His name is Murphy. That's why it's called Murphy's Law. A materialist can call it that because to admit that we are not actually the controller is really a horrible thing. So when we get over the worst of a situation, we try to rationalize it, laugh it off with a rationalization. So let's look at a few situations to make this concept more concrete. I hope you can relate to a couple of them. I know I've been caught thinking like this a few times. So here we have Murphy's Law illustrated. At the bottom, nothing, that's the main thing. Nothing, we're not the controller. Nothing has a straightforward solution. Nothing ever gets better. Nothing is created equal. Nothing is ever perfect. Nothing is as worthwhile as it seems. Nothing is as easy as it looks. It's pretty depressing, actually. because it's the reality. And if we think we're the controller, then actually acknowledging and knowing all of these things can be very disturbing. But a person with spiritual knowledge always has a choice. Srila Prabhupada explains with great precision and erudition what is that choice. Here, you know, in the context of Murphy's Law, there's no choice. Nothing ever gets better. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is worthwhile as it seems. There's no choice there. It's almost like inevitable. But what does Srila Prabhupada say? Follow along with me. The Supreme Lord Krsna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. I should have underlined that. We are never equal to the Lord in quantity. We share in quality, but never in quantity. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy matter, the superior energy, the living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. I am sure that you have all experienced that. As devotees, we are cultivating spiritual consciousness, but due to the influence of matter, we so easily forget. All it takes is sleeping a little too much, eating a little too much, being too attracted to something in the material energy, and whoops, we've fallen right in to thinking that I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusory material energy, he attains the stage called mukti, or liberation. Uh-oh. I've got part of it. That's because I have. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter, and material acquisitions are mine. I remember actually my father, he was actually a very good person, but I remember him actually sitting there one evening and telling me how he was the Lord of all he surveyed. All these acquisitions were his. He acquired all these things by his hard work. And he was actually claiming all this. But Prabhupada says, his actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Prabhupada actually says this is the final snare of Maya. We can give up attachment to so many material things, gross and subtle, but the final snare of Maya is to think that actually I'm God. I'm one with God. There's no difference between myself and God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna. And when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes Krishna conscious, or fully Krishna conscious, or liberated. So keeping Murphy's Law means that we have to actually accept that nothing ever really gets better, that there's no real easy solution to everything. Nothing is ever perfect as we thought it was going to be. and nothing is as worthwhile as it seems. But actually, devotees don't have to accept that. Why? Because we know that Krishna is controlling, and we are sustained by Krishna's energy, by Krishna's love. So we don't have to accept any of those very negative statements. Although we do need to accept that Krishna is the controller, the maintainer, the bhokta and the bhukta. So this is our choice. We can either keep calm and accept the misery of Murphy's Law, or we can surrender to Krishna. And this is such a wonderful picture because it reminds us of the story. It's called Brahma Vimohan Lila. It's a story in Krishna book. And here Lord Brahma, who is actually the creator of the whole material universe, he is the spiritual master of our disciplic succession. And even he became illusioned and thought, I am the controller. And in this pastime, which is very amazing, Lord Brahma thinks, I'm going to play a trick on Krishna. I'm going to steal all the calves and cowherd boys. And when he comes back, they're all going to be gone. And he's not going to be able to figure out where they are. So he stole them all and hid them all in a cave. But Krishna played a trick on him. Krishna knew what happened. And he manifested as many cows and cowherd boys as was needed. He expanded himself and manifested himself in all these ways. So even when the cows and the cowherd boys went home that night, no one knew that they were actually sleeping in the cave. And all the gopis and all the residents of Vrindavan couldn't understand how come all of a sudden their hearts were just completely overwhelmed with love, just like the same amount of love that they felt for Krishna. So this actually went on for 1 year of Brahma's life. And then at the end of that time, Brahma came back to the same area and he saw what's going on. I just hid all the calves and the cowherd boys in the cave, but I see that they're actually all playing together here. Let me go look in the cave. He goes and looks and no, they're there. They're in the cave. Then he goes back. No, they're not in the cave. They're over here with Krishna playing. Goes back to the cave. No, they're here in the cave, completely bewildered. And then he finally realizes that actually all that he saw playing with Krishna were expansions of Krishna. And at that point, Lord Brahma very happily surrenders the illusion that he is the controller. And Krishna is standing there, a little cowherd boy with a little bit of rice in his hand. So it's very, very important for us to realize that we're not the controllers. Let us become bhaktas and stop trying to be bhuktas or bhoktas. Now we're going to talk about our constitutional position. Sanatana Dharma is a very beautiful term, 2 words that describe our eternal constitutional position. The word Dharma is a word that has been used and misused a great deal, especially in the past few years. They have actually recorded that there has been an increase of the word in literature in general. So I decided to look up what is Dharma. I looked online at the final authority in the English language or in language for the English-speaking world. What is the meaning of Dharma? Merriam-Webster says that it's an individual's duty fulfilled by observance of custom or law. And if we speak to most people who live in India or who are aware of some Indian philosophy, they will agree with that definition. It's also given that Dharma is the basic principles of cosmic or individual existence, divine law. Okay, now we're getting a little bit closer, but it's still somewhat external to the living being, to the jiva. Finally, conformity to one's duty and nature. Now we're getting closer. But actually, the Bhagavad-Gita definition of Sanatana Dharma gives us the true meaning of Dharma. According to Bhagavad-Gita, Dharma is the eternal occupation of the living entity. Has very little to do with observance of laws or custom. Dharma, according to Sri Ramanujacharya, is that which has no beginning or end. Dharma is the eternal function of the living entity. And Prabhupada says in relation to that, that Dharma is that which is eternally integral to the living entity, the jiva. So these definitions, these descriptions of Dharma, according to Bhagavad-Gita, are actually very, very different from the Merriam-Webster definition. Because the Bhagavad-Gita is not talking about temporary Dharma. The real meaning of Dharma is actually Sanatana Dharma. What is that constitutional position, the essential nature of every living entity? The essential nature of every living entity is that he is actually always serving another living entity. The wife is serving the husband is serving the wife. The politician is serving the citizens are serving the politician. The dog is serving the master is serving the dog. The worms in the soil and all other living entities, depending on the soil, that the worm is serving the soil and all the other living entities, depending on the soil for sustenance. And the soil and all the other living entities are actually serving the worm. The shopkeeper is serving the customer. Customer is serving the shopkeeper by buying from the shopkeeper. So service is the constant companion of the living entity. There's one artist that some of you may or may not know about. His name is Bob Dylan. In my day, when I was young, he was very popular and we thought he was very wise. In some ways, maybe he was. He wrote a song, "You Gotta Serve Somebody." It's a whole song that he wrote. You may be, I forget all the words now, you may be a king, you may be a this, you may be a that, but you gotta serve somebody. He was right. And to further clarify what is Sanatana Dharma, we need to consider what it is not. Like when you're given directions, for going somewhere, someone will say, and if you go past the post office, you've gone too far. So to understand clearly what is Sanatana Dharma, we also have to understand what it is not. Dharma is not a religion. And Srila Prabhupada is actually saying this in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. I'm not quoting word for word, but I'm paraphrasing. Faith may change. There are so many different faiths. One can have faith in a particular process, and one may change that process or faith and adopt another. One can have a particular belief system, and then he can adopt another belief system. There's actually one Catholic priest, his name is John Main, and he founded a world community for Christian meditation group. And he says that if the belief system that one follows does not challenge a person, does not nurture one's faith in God, does not challenge a person to actually experience God's presence in their life, then either one will be simply satisfied with practicing the rituals of that tradition for their whole life, or one will seek another belief system that will actually bring a person to the point of being on the path of love of God. So John Main actually had a good basic understanding of Sanatana Dharma. I can give you myself as an example. I was raised a Catholic. In high school, I became an atheist. I got a little bit older and started getting knocked around by the material energy. Maybe there is a God. And I actually started praying to God. Please help me. Get me, I'm in a terrible predicament. Please. And I remember one day in particular, I was completely desperate and I was crying and I was on my knees. Please, if you exist, please help me out of this predicament. And then I became a Hare Krishna devotee. So Krishna answered my prayer. So Sanatana Dharma has nothing to do with sectarian belief. There is a common understanding that only Hindus can be associated with Sanatana Dharma. No, because Sanatana Dharma means the eternal constitutional position of the living being. Srila Prabhupada actually explains Sanatana Dharma so eloquently that I will end by quoting his explanation. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entity cannot be taken from the living entity. Sanatana Dharma is eternally integral with the living entity. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. Yet those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that Sanatana Dharma is also sectarian. But if we go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that Sanatana Dharma is the business of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe. So it's not just us that that have Sanatana Dharma, us human beings. The worm has is involved with Sanatana Dharma because he is an eternal servant of Krishna. And he is serving, even though he is serving the material energy, he is serving. Non-Sanatana religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history, but there is no beginning to the history of Sanatana Dharma because it remains eternally with the living entities. In the Gita, it is stated that the living entity is never born and he never dies. He is eternal and indestructible, and he continues to live after the destruction of his material body. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with the particular object. We conclude that there is heat and light along with fire. Without heat and light, there is no fire, no meaning to the word fire. Similarly, we must discover the essential part of the living being, that part which is his constant companion. That constant companion is his eternal quality, and that eternal quality is his eternal religion. So, in conclusion, in whatever body the living entity may be, from Lord Brahma to an insignificant mosquito, whether a particular jiva knows it or not, or wishes to accept this fact or not, the Sanatana Dharma of that jiva is to be the servant. Service means loving relationship. The clerk behind the counter at the bank who is serving us, he has his motivation. It's not probably a loving motivation. You get that feeling sometimes. But he is actually looking for that loving service. Even though the object of his service itself is complete illusion. Why is he there in the bank? He's there to make money for himself. He's there to make money for his family, which is materially laudable, but in the end, the family will go away. So who we serve is based on our desire. We can look at this picture here of the slave and the Confederate, and he wasn't a Confederate, so he was, a soldier from the South. The soldier is feeling like he's in control. And the slave is just standing there. He is serving. Actually, they're both serving. But the service is degrading. It's degrading both to the slave and it's degrading also to the master, because he is degrading himself by treating his slave in such a degraded way. And actually, this is the nature of any service relationship in the material world. So our choice is we can either serve like that, even though we may not be, so puffed up as the soldier or so downtrodden as the slave, still the basic relationship is like that. Or we can serve Krishna. Serving Krishna doesn't mean that we ignore every living entity in the material world. It doesn't mean that we stop serving our families, our loved ones, our friends, even our cats and dogs, but that we see everybody in relationship to Krishna. And then we are actually serving according to our Sanatana Dharma. So let me just end with this part of the purport of Bhagavad-Gita 6:47. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from the desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya. So again, our choice is to either be serving Krishna or be serving Maya, serving the material energy. Inasmuch as we are serving Krishna, we are actually acting in our original constitutional position. And the more we do that by practicing bhakti yoga, then actually the more blissful we will become. So as we end this class, we offer our obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, who so amazingly made so many sacrifices to serve every living entity in the material world and bring us this transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna. So,
Hare Krishna, that was good. Thank you.
I'm glad. So, are there any questions or comments? I'm sure that someone has either a comment or a question.
Well, I could make a comment about Dharma.
Oh, wonderful.
I had a conversation about it just a couple of days ago. Like the word Dharma is usually accompanied by an adjective, like Sanatan Dharma or Varnashram Dharma. And sometimes we speak about Kshatriya Dharma or Brahminical Dharma, different duties. So there's basically it breaks down to two types of Dharma. One is the Sanatan Dharma that applies to the soul, the JIVA, the living entity, the eternal constitutional position of the soul. The other Dharma being, which we often speak about, is Varnashram Dharma. Varnashram Dharma relates to the body, and it's the karma that, or the Dharma that is applicable for this particular human body. So that really helped me separate the two different levels of Dharma. So Sanatana Dharma relates directly to the soul, and Varnashram to the
Yes.
material activities of in this world and in this life. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point because it was on my mind recently. Haribol.
Of course, any word like Dharma that refers to such a basic aspect of the living entity will have different divisions. But if we look at all these different divisions or descriptions of Dharma, we see that they all have one thing in common. The Prabhupada says they all refer to the living entity's service. We are all servants in whatever activity we are engaged in, whether it be Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, a worm, a dog, a cow, everyone is serving. There is no getting away from that. But it is very good to understand the different classifications because it gives us a focus. Otherwise, to just think that I'm just a servant, we may lose focus. So
Right.
that's why Srila Prabhupada has emphasized Varnashram, Vavi Varnashram, Varnashram Dharma, because we need a focus, otherwise we get lost. We just get lost. Someone else was speaking in the beginning.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Raj.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, as said so many times, Krishna is inconceivable. With this small mind, we can't understand him. We should not try to actually understand him. He's inconceivable. I was actually laughing yesterday. I remembered when I was in 8th or 9th grade, they were telling us there are 9 planets. So, okay, you study 9 planets, you listen to scientists, and this is what it is. And then after the years passed away, they said, oh, we found another moon. Oh, we found this. Oh, we found another galaxy. Oh, this is our galaxy. I was reading on this on NASA website. So scientists themselves are telling us how big this creation is. We think we control this. Of course we think we control this. We have one house and we think, wow, I have $1 million house. But look at this big Earth. Look at this planetary system. It's going all around, not just how it wants, it's going around in a system. We should understand there is some power behind it. So NASA sent this thing in space called Voyager. So they sent this Voyager 43 years ago. There are 2 Voyagers going around, one in different direction. 43 years ago they sent them, and they are still walking in space. And right now their speed is 37,000 miles per hour. And just to reach at the end of our galaxy, it will take them 300 years. And we have so many galaxies around. So it's we shouldn't even try to understand Krishna. We should just love him. This is just one galaxy we're talking about. and it hasn't reached there. 300 years, and it is walking, and that thing is going at 38,000 miles per hour. You all can go at nasa.com, like NASA is NASA, and you can check it, and it says there where it has reached, how many minutes has passed. It's amazing what God has made, what Krishna has made. It's out of beyond our reach. They're trying to get this, and they're saying it will take 300 years for us just to reach there. 37,000 miles per hour it's flying. So what to talk about this, to control this word? We can't do anything.
Actually, Srila Prabhupada laughs about the material scientists or material people who say that they're the controller. And several times Prabhupada has said, yes, they think they are the controller, and they think they are God, and God is the controller, so it's the same thing. But then if they must go to the bathroom to pass stool, they have no choice. They must go.
Yes.
So this is, we need to, the more we fully understand our position, and the more we identify with Krishna rather than identifying with the material energy, then the more we become liberated from this foolishness. So that's a very good comment, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you. But one question. I should call you Mataji or Prabhuji, because I know so many older disciples of especially the female disciples want them to call Prabhuji. So, I write you so many emails, and I'm always bewildered. Should I write Mataji or so I just write Hare Krishna?
Well, that's your decision, right? I'm not going to dictate to anyone what they call me.
Okay.
But Malati Prabhu, who is one of the original disciples, she recounts a story of that happened where the devotees came to Srila Prabhupada, the men, I think they were the brahmacharis or the men, and they said, Srila Prabhupada, you've told us that we should call each other Prabhu, and we're calling the women Prabhu, but Prabhu means master. So we don't think it's really very appropriate that we call the women Prabhu. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, you should call them Prabhu. He said, because I want you to see each other not on a bodily platform, but on a completely transcendental platform. So a devotee sees everyone as Prabhu. So, but at the same time, I know I've been in Mayapur long enough. I know that Mataji is actually also a way of a respectful way of addressing a lady. And when someone is used respectfully, then it is wonderful. But when it is used in this way, oh, Mataji, please, like, oh, you're just a Mataji. Then that term is not so well used. But as my husband has pointed out to me, we can all say Prabhu with that kind of attitude also. So the most important thing is the consciousness of the person who is addressing another person. So whether it's Mataji or Prabhu, as long as one is respectful when one speaks to someone, then that's what Prabhupada was trying to teach us.
I will feel more in love calling you Mataji, so I'll call you Mataji.
That's fine, no problem. I have a question or a comment. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll comment on the Mataji point. During the years that Srila Prabhupada was on the planet, 1965 through 77, the term Mataji was never used. We didn't call women Matajis. This was introduced long afterwards, after Prabhupada left. So you will find, especially in Sharanagati, the reference of the practice of calling women Mataji is not very often used in Sharanagati, and because there are many senior women here, and many of them don't like to be called Mataji. They like to be called. They like to be treated as and thought of as a regular devotee and as preachers, and like Prabhupada referred to us. But the term Mataji was introduced after Prabhupada.
So I take my
So
words
that's
back.
one thing.
I will call you Prabhu.
So another,
You are my Shiksha Guru. I should just go with you.
That's fine. Prabhu is fine. We
Okay.
call each other Prabhu. It's actually a very, very good reminder. Prabhu means master, and a devotee should accept that he can learn from everybody. Even
Yes.
a bhakta temple, we will say Bhaktin Joanne or Bhaktin whatever, Prabhu. That's how we used to address each other. Or, John Prabhu. We would address each other like that. Balakrishna Prabhu is right. And in New Vrindavan, actually, I was ashram teacher for many years, and the children would fold their hands and they would say, we would say the prayer before prasadam all together. And then the children would fold their hands and they would say, may I please take prasadam, Mother Vishwadika Prabhu. So they would put Mother and Prabhu. They covered all the bases.
That's funny. Thank you. Thank
Are
you for
there any other
clarification.
questions? Any other questions or comments? Okay. Well, we're finishing exactly on time, which is very good. I don't like to keep people any longer. I know everyone has very busy schedules. So all of you have a very good evening, and I will see you on Friday evening, and some of you next Tuesday. Hare Krishna. Thank you very, very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva
Krishna,
Namo Namah. And also one thing,
Hare,
today was the
Go-
disappearance day of Ishwara Das.
Today,
Today was disappearance day of Ishwara Das. He is a spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. So all glories to Ishwara Das too.
Ishvara Puri.
Ishwara Puri, sorry,
Puri,
Ishwara Puri,
yes.
yes. The disciplic succession, yeah.
Jai. Ishvara Puri.
Thank you very much.
Jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna to all. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Hare.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Oh,
Hare.
I forgot to.
Krishna.
I forgot to. I forgot to apologize to Sanjeev. He's traveling tonight, so he couldn't attend the class.
It's okay.
But next
It's
week,
okay.
sign up from where he is.
Okay. Hare Krishna. My obeisances to your husband.
Hare
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.
Hare Bol. I'll be seeing you soon, I think. You're coming.
yes, next week.
Okay.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.